Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today is the 22nd of December, 3 days away from Christmas. I can't believe this. And only just a short while until the year ends after what was, I think, a record breaking pullback into this past week. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, will the downtrend continue? Will we continue to push up? And some of you may be even looking for some sort of Christmas miracle. I'm going to go over the charts with you all. I'm going to start first, though, here with this week's major U.S. economic reports and Fed speakers. Keep in mind, it's a short week a lot of times, especially around Christmas. The volume dries up. It doesn't mean that we can't have like a nice big move. It just means you need to be aware of the holiday schedule, and we'll go over that as well, okay? All right, so starting off Monday, December the 23rd, we have consumer confidence coming in at 10 o'clock Eastern. And then on Tuesday, which is going to be a half a day, we're looking at durable goods minus transportation, and new home sales. Wednesday, we have the day off, and then Thursday back at it with initial jobless claims. And then Friday coming in with advanced U.S. trade balance and goods. Not a whole lot going on here. I think really what is out there as far as a bigger catalyst is the fact that the government shutdown was averted. And so, is this bullish or is it bearish for the market? Remember, anything that's out there is a catalyst to push price into supply and demand. So, we want to identify the levels, then we allow the catalyst or be aware of the catalyst, and then we want to take action when price gets there. Okay. So this is going to lead me into my next, which is going to be earning whispers. I'd like to take a look over here just to see what's on the calendar. And as you could guess, it's pretty light out there. Matter of fact, Earning Whispers is just reporting at the moment that on the 23rd, we have just a couple names in there, and then it's pretty quiet. I think really what we're getting prepared for, again, is to kick off the season here around the 15th with financials. And so, again, this will be the week that things start to get busy for Q1. All right. Next thing we're going to do is look at the SPY chart and the QQQ on a quarterly chart. And, I'm going to give you my feedback here on the SPY chart. A very steep pullback this past week, one for the record book. Matter of fact, I have not seen a pullback like that since 2020. I surely was not expecting it. I would think, like most traders out there, was not expecting this to happen on that Wednesday, which was the 18th. This was pretty much a surprise. I think what uh, probably was surprising is that we knew, and I come in here every single week and let you all know the imbalances in the market, the imbalance that was left when we had the election, and that at some point price would come back into those imbalances and fill them. Well, that's exactly what happened, and I think, there's just a lot of complacency. And again, we talked about the Santa Claus rally and that the fact that December can be the hardest month, in my opinion, to trade because there's a little bit of euphoria. There's a little bit of this holiday cheer that's behind you. And a lot of times it can really, get you. And I think it got a lot of people, to be honest with you. Far as the rest of this quarter goes, you can see over here that we have 9 days and 7 hours left until these quarterly candles close. Other than the pullback, I would say this. I think the quarter actually remains bullish unless price breaks below 574. We're currently at 591. And at that time, at that time, the candle would become an inside candle. So this quarterly candle right here, all I'm doing is looking at the body of the previous candle and saying, hey, if it drops below there, then, again, be warned because we could end up going inside and down. I'm going to show you what an inside and down looks like here in a second. Um, 600 at this time looks like the top for 2024. Again, if this, then that. If we blow through it, that's cool. But if not, I'll show you here in a few minutes why I think this could be the top for 2024. So let's go ahead and pull in that SPY chart. This is what it looks like. This is an inside and down formation. This is what we look for. Once this candle goes inside, that's where your yellow flag should come out, especially after a rally. And then we sit and kind of wait. And once price drop below the body of that candle around 6:03, we did go down, and you guys can see we pushed down quite a bit. Now, on this chart, if you apply the Fibonacci's, I'm attaching or anchoring my coefficients from this low into this high. You can see that price came down into the 618. That was the golden fib. Buyers did step up. We got somewhat of a really nice rally on Friday, and it was fun, you know. But what I'm seeing here is it's a lot like the previous week when I kept telling you, hey, there's a lot of imbalances below, and we filled one of those right here. Now, going into the rest of the year, we have an imbalance down here as well. And this is definitely possible. So, somewhere between 577 to about 565. So, this entire area in here, there is imbalances. And it is possible that price could pull there. But for right now, going into the end of the year, and again, unless I'm surprised again, I believe that the 618 holds. And really, what we could see if there is some sort of rally out there, is prices could push back up here towards the supply zone around 600 to 602. So what we would see is perhaps buyers come in, we kind of stall here, and this sets up a short into the earnings that are coming up. So financial. So basically, I'd be looking at a possible short until we fill the imbalances below. Again, that is, I would avoid that idea if prices broke above the previous high. But for now, we have a high, we have it inside and down, and my overall sentiment is if we bounce, this is a opportunity to short, and then there we could see prices move back down towards this low, and probably do something like this into financials. And then once we get the earnings, then we break down to the imbalance or we take out the highs. Okay, but this really does feel like it's a target for right now. Not saying it's going to be this week or anything. Okay. All right. So next thing that I want to go ahead and take a look at is the Qs. All right, so QQQ, same thing. We have 9 days, 7 hours left. And right here, the weekly pullback right into the weekly 9 EMA and bounced nicely. And I'll show you guys that here in a second. Overall, this pullback was needed. I think we all understand that. I think the timing, as always, was one of those, you always look back and you go, they always get you, right? Don't they? They always get you, man. So this pullback was needed. The quarter candle remains bullish, in my opinion, above 490. Current price is trading at 518. So yeah, 490 is quite some distance away. You're looking at about 30, points or so. But I would just stick to the bullish idea of buying dips as long as we can stay above 490. Overall, this is a beautiful quarterly chart. Just like the other day, any surprise can happen. I keep reminding you all about the imbalance that's down here that was created months and months ago, last year, really, and that it was never tested. And it is possible that this imbalance is tested in the future. So, if for some reason we have another event that leads us to the downside and continues to the downside, I think we could be targeting in that area. The next thing I want to show you is Thinkorswim. I'm going to go ahead and pull up SPY and we're going to go to the Qs. So remember what this chart looks like on the weekly. Now let's look at the QQQ. So the QQQ, you guys could see it, a bearish, very bearish candle, but at the same time, it came right down into the 9 EMA, also came into a little bit of demand. It held the golden Fibonacci, just like the ES futures, or sorry, just like the SPY, and things look okay. Now, I do have a turn signal to the downside, and as you can see, just with looking at the last two turn signals, it's typically some sort of continuation to the downside. Doesn't mean that it's going to continue down, but I did get one, so we do want to take a note of that. And you guys can see here, here is the other one. Let's just keep going. I'm my idea is here, and price is king. My idea is here that we see something like this. So we got the turn signal, but we're going to go right back up into that supply zone, and that's going to give you that opportunity for the short. Okay. So again, if I'm wrong, I'll get up here and I'll chew on crow and I'll tell you, hey, I was wrong. Not a big deal. All right. So again, major levels going into this week are going to be 511 by 526. If we can get back above 526, things look really good. And we could continue up into 535 before the end of the year. Okay. And again, that is QQQ. Our next thing that we're going to be taking a look at here is we are going to go back to trading view, and I want to take a look at the dollar. So that is DXY. We're going to knock this down into a weekly. And we could see that price moved up into, from the demand zone. We kept talking about caution. Matter of fact, last week I said extreme caution going into this past week. But, again, I was shocked of the pullback. But here we are. We're still definitely waving a yellow flag here. We're still looking very strong on the dollar. Now, during Trump's um, 4 years, the dollar was pretty strong. So I don't think that this is a surprise. But as of right now, let's just continue to say that as long as the dollar is holding above these levels, we want to be careful and just, keep an open mind that prices could pull back. And that level that I want you to be aware of is anything above 106. And currently, you guys can see we're at 107.8. Is that, I'm waving the yellow flag. It looks better if we can get below 105.3, which is this Fibonacci here, and that would also be below the cloud. But as long as price is continuing to stay above the cloud, then I would say be cautious, okay? All right, moving on down into the TNX or the 10-year treasury. This is also very important. We want to take a look here. This looks very bullish, if you will. Surprising, but look, at the end of the day, we came down into the inside and up that we predicted that prices or the TNX would start to move up. It did. I really thought the 618 was going to hold. It worked very well for 3 weeks, and we just kind of come back to levels where I wanted to see. And then, the Fed came out and they said what they had to say, and these things started to book right back up to the upside. Really, what I would want and what is going to happen are two different things. So let's just talk about technically. As long as the TNX is staying above the cloud, just like the dollar, I would say be cautious. There is a possibility that once we close over this 618, that we have an 85% possibility of seeing 4.8. So this is possible. I think this will bring a lot of fear into the market. If we see that this week, then just know once we get up into here, this is where I'd expect it to calm down. If we open up this week and we actually open up below 4.471, then I would say, the market's probably looking for like a short rally into this year. Same thing with the dollar. If things just kind of slow down, we may get that little rally that everyone's looking for in the end of December. Okay. But right now, yellow flags. Let's go ahead and move on to the skew. So the skew I hit on last week. I said extreme caution. It definitely was warranted. We definitely got the big pullback. You'll notice here, if you had bought puts for 30 to 90 days out, you probably got paid very nicely. Now we come back to this is where just technically, without getting too deep into the skew, just reading the action, is that we came down into the cloud, which if we were looking at a stock, I would tell you, hey, let's look for the bounce. A bounce in the skew means that the market is pushing to the upside, but also elevating itself back into a very dangerous level. Last couple weeks, I told you that we were at the highest levels ever recorded, and therefore you needed to be cautious. And again, it played out very, very well. This week, what I'm saying is if we technically just look at this, even though it's still very much elevated at 161, if the cloud works and we push up, that means the market is moving up. But that also means, okay, I like to show you all this stuff so you can understand. If the skew pops up, then we go back to the SPY chart and it makes sense, right? We would push up into most likely towards this supply zone here, and the skew would push back up towards those extreme levels, and this would set us up for that next short. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on now from the skew. So again, guys, caution, but there is a possibility here we get a nice little rally into this short week. Moving on down, let's go to the fear and greed index. You guys can see that this is at 28. The previous close was a extreme fear of the 22, sorry. And this was, I believe, somebody have to correct me if I'm wrong here. I feel like we did not get an extreme fear this past year. I thought we were always tinkering around the fear. Like we were doing a lot of this year, right in here. and just kind of going back and forth, back and forth. But I was looking for extreme fear earlier in the year. Again, not really looking for that last week. So again, it is what it is. But let's go ahead and move on. So 28 is saying, hey, the majority of participants were on you know, the majority of participants now are on the put side. And a lot of times when that happens, guess what happens in the market? We get a really big bounce, right? So, looking at that, let's go into the ES futures, one of my favorite parts of the broad market analysis. So let's go to the H25. That's what I'm using, ES H25, and let's talk about these going into this week. My overall sentiment is neutral to bullish. I know that sounds weird, but neutral because of what happened last week. Bullish because it came into levels where I'd expect to bounce. We actually played that bounce very nicely. To the upside, I got in, I think, future trades. My lowest was like 5905 or 5908. Took advantage of that on Friday. Things looked really good. And again, I don't know if we continue up tonight, but what I do know is that if we do, just be cautious at around the 6100 level. That would still, if let's just say my level is completely perfect, 6098, we're at 5996. So you're looking at, 100 points, a possible move to the upside if we get there. Okay. So again, this is the weekly, and I like to talk about that imbalance that was created down here, which was in September. It's kind of like a if you will, a pre-rally into the idea of seeing who is going to be elected. Prices then came back down into, you know, the 11.4 in this area for election, and then we got the big rally. This created imbalances. Price came back down into that imbalance, filled orders, and again, now we're just kind of stuck at an equilibrium between a zone. And so this is very difficult. You basically are right in the middle, and it's like, okay, bulls either win this run into supply or bears continue the move down into the imbalances created back in September. Okay. On the daily, this is going to be what our triggers look like for this week. This was beautiful. We came right down into the zone. Uh, Again, took advantage of this. I actually was able to trim out of a lot of my futures into this area. I still kept some going into the weekend, several actually. So again, I'm obviously in a bullish position, and looking to see if, the big thing for me are these clouds right here. So the cloud, I'm just going to trace it here so you can understand where it is right here. We need, for bulls, you need a price that can push us up and over the cloud. The issue is if it gets up and over the cloud, it pushes you right into that trigger short. So instead of focusing on the daily, like you could put an alert like me at around 60.59. And if you get an alert, then hey, it's above the cloud. All right. But over here, I believe that this area right here is more important because it gives you a little bit more room to run. Let's say that tonight's catalyst or the catalyst we talked about actually pushes price up and over the cloud here. It gives you still some time to run into this area, right? The the last thing that I would want to see, and I don't think that this government shutdown, you know, news is going to push us all the way into here. But as a supply and demand trader, in my opinion, the worst thing can happen is that you get a big gap up right into supply and everybody's super excited. Um, and then they come in the morning and they're like, heck yeah, it's Christmas. I'm going all in. And they don't realize they're opening up into supply unless you're in here listening to me. And then something like this happens, So I would rather a small gap up and we're kind of like at that point like, okay, if this level holds and we get up over the cloud, then we could really rally into Christmas, then sure. All right. The next thing that could happen, so again, I want my alert around this level right in here, which really actually 60.58. Let's look at the daily. 60.58. Yeah, these are really almost confluent. The top of the cloud is here on the daily, and then you have the 4 hour that's up here around where the daily is. So really what we're all looking for, can we get up over this cloud? And if we can hold and sustain that cloud, then again, I think we move up into supply. Timing is the variable. If we do not get the gap up and this was a sell the news event, then what we could see is a continuation down right back to this demand zone, which will, throw a lot of traders off, and they'll probably start getting really bearish again. And then possibly you get a buy the dip scenario right back here in the demand zone. And then you get a pop up into the 24th, but really, looking back. So I'm looking forward, but looking back. So I'm saying we get here after the holiday and you look back and you go, okay, nothing really happened for the Christmas week. And we just kind of chop between levels. Okay. These are your two major zones at the end of the day. We want to be looking to go long here, and I want to be very cautious and or looking to go short there. Everything in the middle is noise until it's not. Okay. Again, overall sentiment is neutral to bullish this week. Let's go ahead and move into our NASDAQ. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the NQH25 chart. And let's go ahead and pop this up. Now, a little bit different. I like to, the NASDAQ likes to lead the pack. And in this case, my overall sentiment is actually bullish. My weekly sentiment, I'll just say neutral because I think it's important to say that, we're open-minded, anything can happen. We came back into a zone. This was a zone I gave you last week. We came right into that. We actually held the bullish channel of the rally. So when I say that, I anchored my coefficients from this low to this high. We stayed above the 20, or sorry, in the 38.2 by 23.6, which is bullish. We came into a zone. We came back to the 9 EMA, just like I showed you on the QQQ. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a clean setup. You take this trade off of these levels, and you got a really nice bounce. Going into this week, I really like it if we can get above 21,900. I don't like it if we break down below the green zone. Far as, what we'd like to see is the 38.2 hold, and again, 21,908 would be nice to see it above that. Let's go ahead and go into the daily. The daily looks pretty clean. We pull back into this zone here. Buyers did step in. Just like the ES futures, we're still below the cloud here. We can go ahead and set this up together right now. We're going to create the alert at or above 21,760 something, 62. If we get above there, that lets us know that the daily cloud, we're above the daily cloud, and that's a good look. Notice here as well, we have an inside and down formation. The supply was created there. And notice that I have my short trigger there. All of these triggers are there for placement. Doesn't necessarily mean we just go in blindly. What I'll do is if price gets there, we go to a smaller time frame, we look for signs, and then we look to go short or at least get out of our long-term positions. Let's go ahead and move into the 4 hour. This is what your look looks like. Make it, looks a little bit smaller, but, or sorry, it looks a little bit more friendlier, I guess, but it looks a lot like the ES futures. We're basically equilibrium between two opposing zones. Again, the catalyst was, I think, over the weekend that the government shutdown was averted. The question is, since we had the rally on Friday, was it a sell the news event? Was this just forward looking that the government shutdown was going to be averted, right? And so if you get the sell off, then we come right back into the zone. And I think it sets up for a buying opportunity into tomorrow morning. And if for some reason, again, I don't see this happening because this is really far away, but if for some reason we were to gap all the way up into this zone, then I would say be careful because you're gapping up into supply. What I'd like to say is I don't think either one of the zones are going to be hit on tonight's open. And that really that crucial area, just like the ES futures, is the daily and the 4 hour. Can we get above the cloud? And if we can, then we get that support of the cloud, and then we can get probably a sustained rally that pushes us into the idea of a short. Okay. So we went over the ES and the NASDAQ. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin really quickly. The last several weeks, I said stay bullish as long as 90 holds. You can see we did get the dip and down into the zone again. One thing to take note of is we keep making lower lows into the demand zone. Not the greatest look, but sometimes what can happen is, right here, as long as this holds, we can continue the rally. At the end of the day, I just want to see 90,000 hold. Let's go to a little bit higher time frame. Looks like this. These were the targets I gave you. I was feeling really, really bullish, just like everybody else. I was telling you that we could see 114 at the end of the year. We got pretty darn close at 10, looks like 109, very close. We got the pullback. You could see the 9 EMA is here. And really, your major levels going into this week uh, is 104,000 and by 90,000. So pretty wide, a lot of action here. Looks a lot better if we can get above 102,000. Okay. All right. So besides Bitcoin, let's go ahead and go over here to gold futures really quick. That's going to be GC. And on GC, like I said, our levels have worked really, really well. We hit our target to the upside. Prices came back into demand. If you bought the zone, we pushed back up into supply. We pulled back. So, and I want to say 2 weeks ago, I said for the rest of the year, we would just trade between these two major zones. All right. So, looking like, I mean, if you look at the supply and you look at the demand that I've given you on the ES and the NASDAQ and the gold futures, and I gave you the levels for Bitcoin, it really looks like we have our levels for 2024. Meaning, like I imagine we ping pong between those into the year end. If for some reason, a catalyst comes out, we actually push through the highs, that would be amazing because it would just go to show you that this bull market is super serious and that opportunity that we saw this past week was a buy the dip opportunity. If not, then it sets up the idea going into 2025, just to be careful that we do have imbalances down below. Either way, I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much for your support. I really, really appreciate you. It's been a fun year. I hope you've learned a lot. We are getting ready to head to North Carolina super early tomorrow morning, and I'll be there for the rest of the week. I will not be in the trading room teaching on the mic or anything like that. You'll probably see me in the chat room, maybe taking some trades here and there, but I will be on the road tomorrow for a long journey up into North Carolina for the holidays. I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like and share it with your friends and family. Have an amazing Christmas, happy holidays, and I can't wait to see you very soon.